The invitation was not optional. It arrived everywhere at once. Television banners, official social feeds, breaking news alerts phrased with deliberate calm. Elias Crow was being asked to appear before a public review panel to clarify misinformation and address growing concerns. The language was soft. The meaning was not. Crow watched the announcement from a quiet corner of a public library, surrounded by people who trusted the words on the screen because they always had. No one around him noticed the tension in the anchor's voice or the way the statement had been rehearsed down to its pauses. This was not justice. This was theater, and Crow had just been cast as the villain who would make the ending feel reassuring. By agreeing to appear, he would legitimize the process. By refusing, he would confirm their narrative. It was a perfect trap designed by people who understood perception better than truth. Crow stood and left the building without checking out the book he had been holding. He already knew how this story usually ended. That night, the insider contacted him again. No greetings, no pretense. "They will try to break you slowly," the voice said. "Not with force, with reason." Crow leaned against a concrete wall beneath an overpass, traffic humming above him. "They want me calm. They want you predictable." Crow closed his eyes. "Then we change the rhythm." Silence. Then the voice said, "You don't survive this by being right." Crow smiled faintly. "I never did." The next day, Crow accepted the invitation. The reaction was immediate. Commentators praised his willingness to cooperate. Officials spoke of transparency. Even former colleagues expressed cautious optimism that clarity would finally emerge. Crow understood what they were really saying. "We're glad he's walking into the room." Behind the scenes, the pressure intensified. Surveillance followed him openly now. Unmarked cars no longer bothered to hide. Messages appeared on his devices and vanished seconds later, subtle reminders that every step was being observed. And still no one touched him. They needed him intact. The hearing was scheduled for noon, broadcast live, framed as a turning point, a chance to restore public trust. Crow arrived early. The chamber was larger than the one he had seen before. Brighter, designed for spectacle. Cameras lined the walls, screens hovered above, rows of seats filled with journalists, officials, and carefully selected observers. At the center sat the panel, different faces, same structure. The woman from the Ethics Commission was there, calm and composed. So was the man in the dark suit. Others Crow had never seen but instantly recognized by posture alone. People accustomed to being deferred to. Crow took his seat. The questioning began gently. Dates, procedures, clarifications. They spoke to him as if he were confused rather than dangerous. Each question was designed to pull him into explaining himself, to make him sound defensive, emotional, unstable. Crow answered carefully, not lying, not revealing, just enough. Then the shift came. A panelist leaned forward. "Detective Crow, isn't it true that your recent actions have contributed to public uncertainty?" Crow nodded. "Yes." A murmur rippled through the room. The panelist smiled. "And do you regret that?" Crow looked directly into the camera. "No." The room stilled. Crow continued, voice steady. "Uncertainty is what happens when people realize they've been protected from questions, not answers." The woman intervened smoothly. "This is not the place for speculation." Crow turned toward her. "Then why does it exist?" A sharp intake of breath echoed from somewhere behind the cameras. The panel moved quickly after that, steering the conversation back toward structure, order, reassurance. But something had already slipped. Crow could feel it. The insider had been right. This wasn't about truth. It was about containment. Midway through the hearing, Crow did something they had not prepared for. He stopped answering questions. Instead, he asked one, "Who decides when a correction is necessary?" The panel froze. "That terminology is inappropriate," the man in the dark suit said. Crow smiled faintly. "Then you won't mind explaining it." Silence stretched. Crow leaned forward. "Because people deserve to know why some mistakes disappear and others are erased." The broadcast cut to a brief interruption, technical difficulty. Crow felt the shift instantly. They were pulling the plug. But they were too late. The interruption lasted only seconds. When the feed returned, the panel was visibly tense. The insider's voice whispered in Crow's earpiece. "They're voting again." Crow spoke into the silence. You're deciding whether to end this publicly or privately? The woman's eyes met his. For the first time, there was something there that looked like fear. The hearing adjourned abruptly. No explanations, no conclusions. Crow was escorted out through a side exit. That night, the city buzzed, clips circulated, questions spread, the leaked memo resurfaced. For the first time, denial did not feel sufficient. Crow stood alone on a rooftop and watched the lights below flicker like nerves firing. The insider contacted him one last time. You forced the choice, the voice said. And, Crow asked, they chose survival. Crow nodded slowly. So did I. A final message appeared on his phone, not from the insider, from the council. This ends if you walk away. Crow stared at the words, then typed his reply. You already tried that. The response never came. Instead, somewhere deep inside the system, something decisive began to move. And Crow understood with chilling clarity that the next step would not be subtle. It would be irreversible.